So this morning I'm going to dismantle one of the doctrines of Nicean Christianity. In fact, it's the main doctrine of Nicean Christianity. Before I get started, I want to point out a video that I did 10 months ago. It's probably my most viewed video on YouTube, and even, well, no, not even more so on BitChute, but quite a bit as well on BitChute. What is this doctrine that I speak of? Okay, so at the Council of Nicaea, it was held in 325 AD, as they say, did condemn Arianism, a theological belief that their Jesus, as they say, was not fully divine. The council clarified that, as they say, Jesus is the same substance as the Father, or the Abba, and is truly, as they say, God. Now, those of you who watched my YouTube channel over the years, you know I pointed out many times that the word God is derived from the German word Gott. And the German word Gott is derived from the pagan idol of the Germans, the English, and the Norse people as Gott or Gottaz. The one-eyed idol, that's right, one eye, blind in one eye, idol, pagan idol of the Japhetic Gentiles. Now, so as soon as we get started with this, we see a perversion of Scripture, because they are imposing names that are not written in the Scripture. They impose it, though, on the Scripture. But what does Cephas say? No, not Peter. Cephas. His name never was Peter and never will be Peter. Peter comes from the word diuspiter or deuspiter. Deuspiter is the same as Jupiter, the Roman idol that Yehoshua called Satan himself. Now, right here in 2 Cephas, Cephas addresses perversion of the Scriptures. And he says in verse 15, "And the count of the long-suffering of our Mashiach is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul also, according to the wisdom given unto him, has written unto you." In all his epistles, speaking them of these very things that Cephas is speaking of in 2 Cephas and 1 Cephas, quite frankly. Now, some of these things hard to be understood by whom the unlearned and unstable twist. They're hard to be understood by the unlearned and the unstable, and they twist. What is that word? To twist. In the Hebrew, in Greek, it's strebloo, to twist, just like they do also the other Scriptures, and they do so to their own destruction. So when they start taking names like Cephas, changing it to Peter, when they start taking the name Yehoshua and changing it to Jesus, when they start taking the name Yehovah Elohim and changing it to God, they are doing exactly as Cephas stated here, and he says they do so to their own destruction. Destruction. Eternal ruin. To do what Constantine Christians have done, merely by changing names, they do so to eternal ruin, twisting the scriptures. So I have to mention this particular passage by Cephas because they impose the name God or Got, or if you're Latin, Deus. They impose it upon Yehovah Elohim, twisting the scriptures. They impose the name Jesus upon Yehoshua, twisting the scripture. So it's not surprising that they would have difficulty with this Arianism situation. Arianism was a theological view primarily championed by Arius, which stated that, as they say, Jesus Christ was created by, as they say, God the Father, and was therefore not fully divine. So the Council of Nicaea is saying, no, he wasn't created. The Council of Nicaea condemned Arianism as a heresy and affirmed that, as they say, Jesus was God of God, light of light, true God of true God, or whatever, begotten, not made. Begotten, not made. Let's have to look up the word begotten. Begotten, not made. Definition. Typically of a man, sometimes of a man and a woman. Of course, it's from a man by the woman. Bring a child into existence by the process of reproduction. All right? But wait a minute. See, they didn't look into the scripture. Right? Indeed. He is their own Yehoshua, not Jesus, is the only begotten let's see if what was I okay, so we will go to Isaiah, not Isaiah, but Isaiah. And we're going to look at this carefully. Isaiah 49, they say he was not created, but begetto is procreation. All right, so we go to right here at Isaiah 49 and verse 5. It says, and now says not the Lord, but Yehovah. Not God, Yehovah. That's what it says right here. Who formed me from the womb. Now, let's look up this word Yatsar in Hebrew. What is the first thing that you see? To form, fashion, to create. Created from the womb. Therefore, Mashiach was created in the womb. I just used the scripture, I used the words of the prophets to destroy, to bury, this false doctrine that the Mashiach was not created. He was created. Let's read it again. Yehovah says, He created me from the womb to be His servant. For what reason? To bring Jacob and return him, Israel, shall be gathered. Doesn't say not be gathered, shall be gathered. Chabad, to be glorified. And there's going to be a great affliction that goes along with it. Okay? In the eye of Yehovah, or Yehovah, Elohim shall be my might. And Yehovah said, it is a light thing. It is a trifling thing that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore and watch over Israel. I will also give you for a light to the Gentiles, that you may be my salvation unto the ends of the earth. Yehovah says, the Redeemer of Israel, Kadosh, that man despises. That man despised, the one whom man despised, whom the Gentiles abhorred, will become from a servant to a ruler. He will go from a servant to a ruler. Kings shall see and arise at his presence. Princes will bow down to him, because Yehovah is faithful, and the Kadosh of Israel shall choose. Okay? So, he was created at the womb and not in existence beforehand, but except that he was hidden in the shadow of Yehovah's hand. He was hidden, see, like a polished shaft in his quiver, as he hid me. Just like my own son was hidden in my quiver before he was procreated. But the word he makes clear. That Yatsar means that he was created. from the womb at that point. So, Constantinism once again has proven to be false. And that anyone who follows after Constantine's creed, Constantine's doctrine, they do so to their eternal loss. Now, so Yehovah, not God, speaks of a disaster in Jeremiah 16. This disaster was caused by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. And it talks about it here. The guilt, why the catastrophe is going to happen to them. And he goes into why. Then he says this in verse 14. The days come, says not the Lord, but Yehovah. Don't twist the scripture. If you twist the scripture, you will do so to your own eternal loss. His name is Yehovah. That it shall no more be said, Yehovah lives, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But instead, it will be said, Yehovah lives, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands where he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their lands, and that I gave to their fathers, Israel, Jacob. Behold, I will send for many fishers, says Yehovah, and they shall fish for them. And after that, in the after part, only the Jews know what this means, unfortunately, the after part. I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them for them in every mountain, and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. Now, what I'm going to show you is that the fishers was the first regathering of the Jews, the ones who still bore the name Israel, because the lost 10 tribes do not bear the name Israel today. But they will. At the second return. So the fishers is the first return, and the hunters is the second return of Israel, where it says, I will send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and every hill. That's out of all the nations, out of all the kingdoms, out of all great and small, and out of the holes of the rocks. And that means out of their graves. For my eyes are upon all their ways, and they are not hid from my face, neither is iniquity hid from my eyes. But first, I will recompense their iniquity, and he did. And their sin double, twice. A copy. The second one would be a copy of the first. And if you read the whole book of Jeremiah, you will see that this is concerning Babylon. So the second one is a copy. And so when Rome copied Babylon, they essentially became Babylon, the second Babylon. A copy, a second, a repeat. Okay? So it's twice. There's not 3 times, twice. because they have defiled my land, and because of they have filled my inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Okay? So, Yehovah is going to send the hunters to gather them out of all the hills and all the mountains, which is all of the kingdoms, great and small, and from out from under the rocks, which is from the graves. The rocks in the holes are the graves. Now you may say, if you go to look in Ezekiel, I believe it might be 36, or it might be 35. Oh, it's in the dry bones. Let's see if it's in dry bones. No, it might be 37. Okay, I believe it's 37. Valley of dry bones. Okay. And then he explains the vision of the valley of dry bones. But he says, and you shall know, Yehovah, when I open your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves, I will put my ruach in you, and you shall live. Now, he does, when you look at through this, the nations where they live in, they are their graves or their prisons. But it specifically says, I will open your graves. So, digging them out of the rocks and the holes is digging them out of their graves. Okay? Now, here in Ezekiel 36. Now the Christians say that the Jews, they must believe first before they can be saved. Well, they're wrong. Let's go look at verse 22. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, Adonai, Yehovah says, I don't do this for your sakes, O Israel, but for my holy name's sake, for my Kodesh Shem sake, which you have profaned among the Gentiles wherever you went. I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the Gentiles, which you have profaned in the midst of them. And the Gentiles shall know Yehovah. Not God, not Deus. They will know Yehovah, says Adonai Yehovah, when I will be sanctified in you before their eyes. I will take you from among the Gentiles, and I will gather you from all the countries and I will bring you into your own land. And I will sprinkle clean water upon you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, from all of your idols. I will cleanse you, and a new heart will I give to you, and a new ruach will I put within you, and will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of real flesh, and I will put my ruach within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments. So it's not if you walk in my statutes and keep my judgments. It is, and you shall, and you will do them, and you will dwell in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you shall be my people, and I will be your Elohim. It does not say God. Remember, twist the scripture, you twist the words of Yehovah, you do so to your eternal loss, to your eternal destruction. I will save you from all of your uncleanness, and I will call for the grain and increase it. I will lay no famine upon you anymore. I will multiply the fruit of the tree and increase the field. and you will receive no more reproach of famine among the Gentiles. And then you shall remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not good, that were not right. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your iniquities and your abominations. Not for your sakes do I do this, says Adonai, Yehovah. It shall be known unto you, be ashamed and confounded for your ways, O Israel. You see, this is also against the teaching of Constantinism. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is this. So, once again, if you remember a few months ago, Donald Trump gave the Gazans an ultimatum. He is going to unleash hell on Gaza if they don't release the hostages. Hostages still have not been released. We have here on Israel National News report U.S. pressuring Israel to hold off on a full-scale Gaza operation. The Trump administration has reportedly asked Israel to postpone the start of the full-ground maneuver in Gaza by several days in order to exhaust and negotiate. What is there left? He gave ultimatum after ultimatum, deadline after deadline after deadline, and he's still holding Israel back. Why? They will do anything to hold Israel back from this. That's why. So, plagues are coming upon the world, folks. Plagues like this generation has never seen. Now, what I need you to understand is the generation of your great-grandparents, of my great-grandparents and grandparents, saw horrific times. You know, World War I, when millions and millions and millions of people, go look it up how many people died in World War I, and then the pestilence of, what was it? I forget what flu it was, killed millions and millions and millions of people in the United States alone. Okay? And then, just a few short years later, here comes World War II and kills several times more people. And I'm speaking to you Americans especially, but to the world, but to you Americans especially. You have not seen hardship. You don't know what it is. But hardship is coming. The likes of the world has not seen for at least 1,000 years. What do I mean by that? Well, there was one plague that occurred, just one, that caused many plagues. It caused the bubonic plague. So I want to go ahead and play some of this video. And I'm going to point it out to you where that is located in Scripture. And this is just a taste of what's coming.
Human history. The sun vanished.
Hold on.
The darkest year in human history. The sun vanished for 18 months, plunging the world into an endless cold that marked the beginning of humanity's darkest chapter. The year 536 AD isn't just another date in history books. It represents the start of a catastrophic chain of events that nearly drove mankind to extinction and forever altered the course of our civilization. Imagine waking each morning for over a year and a half to find the sky covered by a grey veil, unable to distinguish day from night, while temperatures dropped so low that summers resembled perpetual winters. This was the reality our ancestors experienced when a colossal volcanic eruption in Iceland shrouded the northern hemisphere's skies with a blanket of ash that almost completely blocked sunlight. If you're finding this story as fascinating as it is terrifying, don't forget to follow us and hit like to receive more content like this. What makes 536 AD such a dramatic turning point in world history is the unprecedented concatenation of disasters. It wasn't just an isolated event, but the beginning of what modern historians have termed the late antique Little Ice Age. Research conducted at the University of Maine's Climate Change Institute, led by medieval historian Michael McCormick and glaciologist Paul Majewski, revealed through ultra-precise analysis of ice from a Swiss glacier that the 536 eruption was only the first blow in a series of 3 massive eruptions that kept the world plunged in cold for nearly a full century.
Did you hear that? A full century. This one caused it for 18 months. And then right after this volcanic eruption, another one occurred that caused even more, and then a third one. And what happened is the combination of them caused a whole century of darkness.
The Byzantine chronicler Procopius of Caesarea, an eyewitness to this apocalyptic phenomenon, described the situation in blood-chilling words. The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon. Meanwhile, Roman Senator Cassiodorus wrote in 538, "The sun seems to have lost its usual light and appears of a bluish color. We marvel at seeing our bodies cast no shadows at noon, and feel the mighty vigor of its heat has been diminished."
No shadows at noon.
For people living in that era, deeply superstitious and fearful of divine omens, it wasn't difficult to believe they were witnessing the end of the world. The immediate consequences were devastating. Average summer temperatures dropped between 1.5 and 2.5 degrees Celsius, which may seem minor, but in climatic terms represented a catastrophe for medieval agriculture. The decade between 536 and 545 has been scientifically confirmed as the coldest in the last 2,300 years, causing the simultaneous collapse of agricultural systems across Europe, Asia, and Africa. In Ireland, chronicles attest that there was a failure of bread from 536 to 539. In China, it snowed during summer, something never seen before, and harvests were equally disastrous, causing massive famines. Similar phenomena were documented in Mesopotamia and Scandinavia. Widespread hunger triggered large population movements which, in turn, provoked armed conflicts between desperate populations.
Large movements of populations. In other words, people had to escape the lands that they were in or starve to death. Unfortunately, there was nowhere to escape.
Competing for increasingly scarce resources. But the worst was yet to come. As if nature wanted to ensure humanity wouldn't recover easily, in 540 or 541 a second massive volcanic eruption occurred, once again reducing European summer temperatures by 1.5 to 2.5 degrees. And to complete the triad of catastrophes, in 547, a third major volcanic event took place. These successive eruptions, combined with increased ocean ice cover due to low temperatures, created a negative feedback cycle that kept the planet plunged in cold for decades. Can you imagine living in a world where the sky remains darkened for years, and each summer is colder than the last? If you find this story as fascinating as I do, take a second to like and subscribe. You won't want to miss our upcoming accounts of humanity's most crucial moments. The climate crisis was merely the prelude to a greater catastrophe. Between 541 and 543, bubonic plague, known as the Plague of Justinian, for the Byzantine emperor ruling at that time, spread from Egypt throughout the Mediterranean, decimating entire populations. This devastating pandemic killed between 35 and 55% of the Eastern Roman Empire's population and extended throughout Africa, Asia, and Europe, claiming between 25 and 50 million lives, approximately 1/5 of the world's population at that time. Emperor Justinian himself fell ill, though he survived the plague. The first city affected was Pelusium, a trading center.
Now, I think that's enough. I will leave a link down below for this video. I think each and every one of you should watch the whole thing. But what I am telling you is this was just one of the plagues of the book of Revelation. Which one was it? You might ask. Well, we'll go and find it. It's in Revelation 8, Revelation 8, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there any written account of the first sounding of the shofar? Of what happened here? There's no written account of that we know of, that it happened. Does that mean it didn't happen? No, it does not. Is there a written account of the second one? Apparently so. Mount Vesuvius. Mount Vesuvius. As it was a great burning mountain with fire was cast into the Yam, which would be the Mediterranean Sea. It says Thalassa in Greek, but in Hebrew it would be the Yam, which would be Mediterranean Sea, and the third part of that sea became blood. Well, when you have a eruption where part of the mountain slides into the sea, you're going to have serious chemical reactions in the Mediterranean Sea. And the third part of the creatures that were in the sea had died, had life. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. So it destroyed a bunch of ships, which it would. In fact, I believe it was Pliny the Elder was in one of the ships and died. Now, this one right here, there's no written account of this happening. The third messenger sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. The name of the star was called Wormwood, and the third part of waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because it became bitter. It was made bitter. Now there are there's no written account of this happening, but comets were considered to be grave omens, but this does not look to be a comet. This looks probably to be an asteroid. Okay? The fourth, verse 12, the fourth messenger sounded. Get rid of this so it doesn't make noise here. All right. The fourth messenger sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon. That means the light was reduced by 1/3. On top of that, and on the stars, so a third part of them was darkened. Not only that, and not that, but and the day didn't shine at all for a third part, and the night likewise. This, right here, I believe, is the plague of darkness 536 on the Roman calendar. Okay? Now, how many people, nobody knows how many people died as a result of this plague. It caused darkness for nearly a whole century, and it caused a bubonic plague. Now, what I want to explain to you is this. Isaiah 66. Yehovah's final judgment against the wicked. Verse 18, for I know their works and their thoughts, and it shall come to pass that I will gather all the Gentiles. He's talking about the wickedness of the Gentiles now. And they will come and see my glory. How are they going to do that? How's that? Ezekiel 38 and 39. He's going to drag Gog and Magog and all his nations with him, all that are under his authority. And they will come and see his glory. And he's going to make a sign. No, that will be a sign. That will be a sign to send escapees to the Gentiles. So, if you have bothered to watch my videos, I explain, I show you Ezekiel 38 and 39 triggers what appears to be a nuclear war, triggering Israel's Samson option against both Russia and the Europeans. It says he's going to send a fire on Magog and those who dwell in security in the coastlands. That would be the Roman Empire and Russia. And Zechariah 14 talks about, in vivid description, that very fire that is going to melt the eyes out of their sockets while the people are standing. Okay? Says then he's going to send escapees to the Gentiles, to Tarshish first. And I have showed you, we can, let's see if I can find it in one of my videos once again. Okay, let's see here. Tarshish, beyond. Let's see if I can beyond. Oh. There's one. There's one of the videos here. Tarshish beyond the pillars of Heracles to receive plagues first. Okay? In this particular video, you might want to find it. There's the video link right there. USA has deviously attempted to overthrow the Israeli government, threatened to abandon Israel at the UN. This was during the Biden administration. French president says, or USA will have to answer to a more conservative Israel monarchy as a result. USA is currently slow-walking military aid to Israel, which they were doing. And they're still slow-walking the hellfire that was promised on Gaza if they didn't go and turn loose the hostages. President French president says NATO troops to Ukraine out of one side of his mouth while saying no NATO troops on the other side of his mouth. Where exactly is Tarshish? Tarshish, front and center in Bible prophecy. Tarshish beyond the pillars of Heracles. Pillars of Heracles are the promontories that flank the entrance of the Strait of Gibraltar. The north pillar, which is Calpe Mons, is the Rock of Gibraltar, a corresponding North African peak, not being predominant the identity of the southern pillar. Abila Mons has been disputed throughout history, with two most likely candidates being Monte Hako in Hueta and Jebel Musa in Morocco. The term was applied in antiquity. Pliny the Elder included the pillars of Heracles in his Naturals Historia book. So, Tarshish is the lands beyond or west of the Strait of Gibraltar. That would be, well, you've got a map. You can find it for yourself. The gathering of Israel and the plagues will begin at Tarshish, west of the Strait of Gibraltar. Get your map and figure it out. I will try to remember to leave a link in this too. It's very, very, very important. Okay? So what I'm telling you is, you saw the strength of the one plague in Revelation 8. 536 AD. On the Roman calendar started the Dark Ages. Okay? Isaiah. And what are these escapees going to do? And you will find more about those escapees in Revelation 11. They're going to not have just one plague, but many plagues, and one will be worst of them all. Which one is that? A plague of no rain for 3.5 years, unabated. No rain. Oh, you're not a farmer, that has nothing to do with you. Okay, learn the hard way then. Learn the hard way. Send escapees to the Gentiles, to Tarshish first. Isaiah 60 says the same thing. Isaiah 60 verse 8, to Tarshish first. Pul and Lud to draw the bow, Tubal and Greece, and to the coastlands, and to the Roman Empire. To hear my fame, not that have not heard my fame, to hear my fame, to see my glory, and they shall declare my glory with these plagues among the Gentiles. And they will bring all of your brethren for an offering unto Yehovah out of all the Gentiles upon the horse. So, when you read Revelation 11, you know now that the purpose of the two witnesses and their plagues is to bring all Israel out from among the Gentiles. There was given unto me a reed like a rod, and the messenger stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of Yehovah. Yes, the temple was still upright back in those days, and the altar them that worship therein. But the court which is outside the temple, leave out and measure it not, for it is given to the Gentiles. And they will tread underfoot for 42 months Jerusalem. That is the second, the copy of the first that we just read about. Which means the Romans are now Babylon. And will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days in sackcloth. They are the 2 olive trees and the 2 lampstands standing before the Elohim of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth, or they call fire down from the sky as Eliah did, and devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, they must be in this manner be killed. They have the power to shut the sky that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. 1,260 days, for every day that Jerusalem suffered at the hands of the Gentiles. They have the power over water to turn them into blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Now, you will say, well, the whole earth was covered in darkness by the volcano of, 536 AD on the Roman calendar. But these plagues are different. One last scripture. We're going to go to, let's see if I can remember. Oh, darkness that can be felt. Exodus 10:21. Now, there's some misconception of what that means. If you read it carefully, if you'll go to the Strong's Concordance, you will see that it means that causes you to grope. Okay, see right here it says to feel, to grope. Okay. 10:21. So this plague of darkness is different than the one that was caused by volcanoes. Yehovah said unto Moshe, stretch out your hand toward the sky, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness to feel and to grope. In other words, it's so dark they have to grope. And it's in their dwelling. No candle could fix it. To grope. They have to navigate by groping. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward the sky, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. And they saw not one another, neither rose any in their places for 3 days. But all of the children of Israel had light at their dwelling places. Now wait a minute. You're going to assume that meant just inside their houses. Wrong. Look. Bright, clear day, lightning, morning, and sun. So, where the children of Israel lived in Goshen, the sun was shining bright. That kind of darkness. Now, if you read Isaiah 60, it says, darkness covers the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yehovah's light will shine upon Jerusalem, because there's so much darkness on the earth. There will be a mass exodus from all the lands. There will have been so much death and destruction, where there are nearly 8 billion, or how many people, 10 billion people alive today. China has been lying about their population, by the way. They only have about 300 million people. But that's a whole other subject that I'm not going to get into. The population loss alone at the sixth shofar sound is going to be the loss of 1/3 of men. died. An hour, a day, a month, and a year. 1/3 of men gone. How much more will be lost? There is going to be a severe population loss, lots of dead people, and the remain will have to leave their lands and bring the people of Israel with them to Yehovah. And hopefully he will spare them for doing so. But I think that's enough for me for today. I want you to take these things to heart. This generation has not seen adversity, has not experienced hunger, not real hunger. In fact, this generation of the people in Africa and China have not experienced real hunger. It has been an unprecedented time of renaissance, as they say, wealth and food. But I'm here to tell you, as sure as the sun rises in the morning, all of that is going to be taken away from the world. It will be replaced with darkness, disease, hunger, and death.